That's what we're talking about today. What's up, nerds? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I talk about camera gear and filmmaking stuff. There's a lot of really cool pieces of camera gear out there, but few of them get me as excited as a motorized camera slider. So today we're checking out a motorized camera slider from a small brand called Zeapon. If you've looked into or researched motorized camera sliders whatsoever, you've probably heard of a few brands. Edelkrone, iFootage, Rhino, GVM, maybe Neewer, and I'm sure that Zeapon has been on that search result list. And although all of those brands have strengths in different areas, I think that the Zeapon Axis slider brings something unique at an affordable price point. Now, quick disclaimer, I reached out to Zeapon myself a few months ago. I've been a customer of Zeapon for about 2 years now. I originally had their Micro 2 Plus slider, which was fantastic and I loved using it. So when I saw that this came out, I reached out to them over Instagram and they were nice enough to send this out to me and they're letting me keep it in exchange for this review. But this video is not sponsored by them. They don't get any input on the creation of this video. And even though this slider is really awesome and has a lot of pros to it, I did find some things that I don't really like about it that I will address in this video. So take that with a grain of salt, but rest assured my words are my own. So with that out of the way, I've been using this slider for a couple of months, doing product videos, which more recently I just did a coffee commercial, and I used this slider for a number of shots for that, as well as some time lapses, and I try to do a little bit of narrative work with it. Getting started with some of the initial specs, the main point of this slider is the carbon fiber rods that span the entire slider. You can get this slider in 3 different sizes. This is the 100 centimeter version, but they also have it in an 80 centimeter and a 120 centimeter. Now the slider is available in just the standard version, meaning that you just have the pan and motor head that you have here. But if you get the Pro version, you also get this pan and tilt module, which gives you this really cool 3-axis effect that is kind of my favorite part of this entire slider setup. The Pro version for the 100 centimeter will cost you just under $1,000. And if you just get the standard without the tilt head, you're looking around $700. And obviously the 120 costs more than that and the 80 costs less than that. When you receive the slider, it does come in a nice soft travel case. Not too much to write home about. It's durable, but I'm probably gonna look into getting a hard case just to keep it more secure. Not that I'm too worried about this breaking because the carbon fiber is pretty strong and then all the rest of the components here are made of a really good metal. So build quality is definitely really impressive on this. I did have one accident spill while I was out filming and my entire setup toppled over and nothing happened. It wasn't broken, it was fine. That case will hold everything you need, including the tilt module, as well as the support arms that you can get with this, which these support arms are really nice that they provide them, but they're a little clunky and I'll talk about that in a sec. Now this entire slider is battery powered. You do have the option to do USB-C, but I don't think you'll ever need to do USB-C power because these batteries last forever. Typically on the tilt module, I'll use these NPF 550 batteries, and on the motor and pan module, I'll use these NPF 750 batteries, and I kid you not, these have lasted me days. There was one time that I forgot to turn it off after I put it in my studio, and I came back the next day, like I kid you not, 24 hours later, and it was still running. Like the batteries were like half depleted or something like that. So yeah, battery power is very impressive on the system. I've never ever once thought to plug it in via USB-C into an outlet or something. Now on top of it being a motorized slider, you can also control this by hand. Right now this is in motorized mode, but if I flip this switch on the bottom, I am now in handheld mode and I can slide this back and forth like a cool dude. And now, I've got something like a Dana dolly that I'm working with. And, you don't really get the tilt module to it, but you can pan and it works handheld if you want. Now, as far as mounting points for this slider, you have a ton of different options underneath. You have quarter mount adapters that run along 4 or 5 different sections of the slider. And you can do it just like I have it here on 2 different light stands that are mounted on either end. And then you can put those support arms to give yourself a little bit more support in that center section. Or what I've been using for the last couple of months is just getting a tripod and mounting it to the center and then putting the support arms on the ends here and connecting them to the tripod itself. Now, fair warning here, this is where the 80 centimeter version might be the best way to go, and that's what I would have preferred. But because this 100 centimeter has a decent travel distance to it, that bowing that's gonna happen, like with your tripod, no matter how strong your head is, it's gonna kind of tilt just a little bit as it goes from either side, even with those support arms. So it does limit the distance that your tripod or your slider can travel. When it's on these light stands with either end with supports on both sides, you can travel the entire distance and you're not gonna have that bowing effect. But when you're mounted in the center, even with those support arms, I noticed that it's still gonna bow just a little bit. So just keep that in mind. My dog is squeaking her toy. You want your toy? The tripod I've been using is this Komen tripod. I had a different head on it, but you know, these legs aren't very thick. These are probably 28 millimeter legs. So I did just order a set of legs on Amazon. It's actually meant for like scopes and guns and stuff like that. But the legs are a 40 millimeter thickness. So they're much thicker and they don't have this center column, so you can get really low. Maybe I'll have to do like an update short when I have it connected to that tripod, but I would highly recommend getting something like that. I'll leave a link in the description. So yeah, as far as stability goes, you have a ton of different options to work with here, as well as just putting it on a table with these legs that are on the sides here. You can click a button and you can adjust each leg to kind of pan out, and then you can level them a little bit. So, you know, you can balance things out just fine. I did this a little bit with some shots that were super low to the ground, and it was a little difficult to get things kind of level, but once I got it, it was good. Now let's talk about the controller interface just a little bit. So right here on the side of your motor, you have all of your indications here. You've got speed, you've got your A/B points, you've got your menu system, you've got your battery power, basically everything that you need to control this slider. You could do it all from this LCD system, other than the tilt head. You can't control the tilt head with this. Also on the sides of these carbon fiber rods, you've got different measuring indicators to give yourself a little bit more of a precise A to B point. You can use these measurements, as well as on the pan system, you also have those measurements there. But this LCD system is pretty great, and it's nice for like quick movements, just like moving it left to right or doing your pan or something like that if you need to adjust things. But really the majority of people, and the way that I use this, is just inside the app. But before I hop into the app control, I do want to say that the load capacity on this, when you are just in this setup, your left to right horizontal setup, you can get up to 26 pounds of load capacity. I put my entire camera rig, it's actually filming me right now, and this motor handled it no problem whatsoever. And with the tilt system, I do have my A7 IV, my 24-70, and it was able to handle that no problem whatsoever either. Now vertically, this is where a lot of motorized camera sliders really struggle. Not a shot that you would get a ton, but I have done it in the past where I've mounted my slider completely vertical and wanted my camera to like come down on an object or a product or something, or even pull up on a product. Well, the load capacity on that is 7 pounds. So basically that means that you could have like a small camera with a light lens on it. But I will say, comparatively to other brands like Edelkrone, iFootage, and Rhino, those numbers are similar, if not a lot better, which is really impressive to me for a budget slider like this. All right, so the main feature, and probably where Zeapon has struggled the most in their motorized sliders, is actually in their app. When I used the Micro 2 slider, it was pretty common for that app to struggle. It would just have a lot of connection issues, but this actually has improved a lot. I had one connection issue in the 2 months that I've been using this, and I genuinely think the only reason that it disconnected from me is because I was using my iPad and my phone to control it, and when I was hopping back and forth from another, it kicked me out of my phone. But then, you know, I reloaded the app, reconnected, and it was just fine. The app is pretty seamless and user intuitive. You've got, you know, your controls right here for pan and tilt, you have your left to right controls, and all of your plot points right here. You can do up to 5 plot points. But one thing I will say off the bat is that even though you can put up to 5 different plot points to, you know, assign, the transition between those plot points is not fluid. So it's gonna go like from A to B, and then kind of slow down and then go from B to C. So it's not gonna be fluid and consistent, which is a bit of a bummer. And I do think that Edelkrone has figured out a solution in that area where theirs is a little bit more consistent, a little more fluid. But other than that, I think the app has made some amazing improvements from the previous versions, and I really don't have much else to complain about on it. So going over the pros of the system, I think that it's a powerful slider that can hold a decently big camera rig horizontally and vertically. I think that the arms hold up pretty well, even though they are made of a plastic and have 3 different mounting points that you need to adjust if you're gonna, you know, bring your tripod up or down. I also really like that handheld function for shots that require a little bit more speed than this motorized slider can provide. And even though I'm not the biggest time-lapse fan, I actually enjoyed doing the couple time lapses that I did with this. And going back to that battery life, that is absolutely insane. Like, I'm not even joking. I bet I could go a whole week on just one battery. And being carbon fiber, it's decently lightweight for a slider of this size and comes with that travel bag, so makes things pretty convenient. But like I mentioned in the beginning of this video, there are cons, and I do have a few cons that I want to mention. I need a drink. Ugh, sponsored by Powerade. I'm just kidding, it's not, but Powerade, hit me up. So number one con to me with this system is that repeated shots, meaning doing the exact same movement over and over again in order to overlay videos on top of each other to create some cool effects, is nearly impossible. When we were shooting the coffee commercial, there was one shot that we did where I mounted the can to the slider and then I had the camera still in one spot. Nothing moved. That slider just moved from A to B. And for some reason, every time I did the movement, the can would be in a slightly different position. So that basically tells me that either the can wasn't mounted properly, which is likely, or the slider just doesn't repeat the exact same moves. I do think that this could be improved in some firmware updates in the future, which would be awesome, Zeapon. The next thing is just the leaning that happens when you're mounting to the center point of this. Like I said, I did have a couple of tumbles with this system and luckily nothing broke on it, but it did make me a little nervous and then, you know, just stopped me from going further than like this point when I was doing travels and really just cut the length in half technically, even with those support arms. So it made me start using this light stand setup instead, but this is a little hard to travel with unless you're setting up for some not quick setup shots. Also, the mounting point for the tilt arm. So you see that this has your base right here. So there's a little Arca Swiss plate that mounts on the bottom of your camera, and then you slide it onto this arm right here and it screws on just like that, which is honestly really ingenious and an awesome system, but it does get stuck sometimes. I find myself fiddling with it and just having trouble getting my camera off it. Not a huge deal, but just something I noticed. But a few of the shots that I've done in the past with this system, this kind of like cyclone shot. So if you're mounting your camera like this and then pan it around, you can do a really cool shot that's like a cyclone where it twists and gives you a really neat perspective. But just like that, if you go a little too far, the motor does max out and you're stuck like this. Now this can kind of be fixed by balancing the head just a little bit better. And if I had a lighter lens on here, this cyclone shot would be a lot easier and I wouldn't risk the motor maxing out as easily. As you can see, we get a lot closer there, but that's where my other con comes in. Now on the Micro 3 Plus, this mounting system was slightly different. With this system, to make things a little bit more compact, they created this sort of arm attachment here that goes up and down, and then you slide this arm into the tilt module, locks in place, and it works. And it definitely works if you're planning on putting it right here, because when you put tension, it stays right in it. But as soon as you do that cyclone shot, or if you're, you know, doing a portrait or something like that, it doesn't stay, even when it's fully tightened. Even just the slightest push, it bends in. So it's pretty likely that a fair amount of people are never gonna do a shot like that, but that's one of my favorite shots to do. So I really hope that we can see an improvement on it, or maybe I can find a different solution. So overall thoughts is that this slider, compared to other brands, is capable of doing everything that those other brands are capable of, if not more, for less money. They're offering more power, more options, longer battery life, carbon fiber, and a travel case, all for $1,000 or less. I definitely think that the pros and capabilities of this slider outweigh the cons in my opinion. And to me, it's a no-brainer that this slider is the best budget, if not overall option for motorized sliders on the market right now. And I would highly recommend it if you're in the market for a motorized camera slider, which if you watch this video, then you know, you might be. Honestly, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you like it? Do you think it's worth the money? Let me know. If you're interested in purchasing the slider, make sure to check the link in the description. It is an affiliate link, so if you do decide to purchase the slider with that link, thank you so much for supporting the channel. And if you got a second, maybe watch this video next, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell button so you never miss out on new young filmmaker content. Good luck filmmaking.